Welcome to Digital Dominators, the podcast that helps small business owners grow their confidence, sharpen their digital skills, and actually enjoy showing up online. I'm Sue Jung, your host, tech coach, and digital cheerleader, and every week I chat with brilliant experts to bring you practical tips, smart strategies, and the tools and tech to make business easier. From social media marketing to websites, content to confidence, AI to automation, we're breaking it down into simple steps you can actually use. If you're ready to make things simpler and more successful in your digital world, you're in the right place. Let's get stuck in. Welcome back to Digital Dominators, the podcast where we explore the strategies, skills, and systems that help you grow your business in a way that's not just profitable, but purposeful. Today's episode is one every business owner, designer, and marketer needs to hear because we're asking a bold but important question. Is your website excluding people? Is it really working? Because it's one thing to build a beautiful site, it's another to build one that works for everyone. And that's where today's guest comes in. Kim Scotland is a website accessibility strategist, designer and educator who helps business owners and brands build websites that are inclusive, impactful, and actually usable by the people they're meant to serve. With a background in both tech and user-centered design, Kim combines accessibility best practices with conversion strategy so her clients don't just reach more people, they welcome more people in. She's on a mission to raise the standard of what good web design really means and show that accessibility isn't a tick box exercise. It's a business advantage. It's a moral responsibility. And it's key to creating digital spaces that reflect the real world. In this episode, we're talking about what accessibility really means, how to start making your website more inclusive today, and why small changes can make a huge difference to your impact. So let's get into it. Hi, Kim.
Hello, thanks for having me.
How are you today? Are you well?
Good, thank you. Yeah.
I always love to start the podcast after reading the bio to have you introduce yourself and tell us, how did you get into website design and with a focus on accessibility? So tell us a little bit about your story, Kim.
So yeah, I come from a tech background, so I am a former software engineer. And so I'm one of those people who used to sit at a desk all day long writing code. And I'll be honest, that's the only thing that I miss from my corporate days.
Okay.
I get massive satisfaction out of creating something from nothing. And yeah, so that's generally when you come across web designers, they either come from the tech background or the design background. First and foremost is the tech. I've got a degree in software engineering, so I'm all about the tech. And yeah, I never set out to start my own business. In fact, I remember as a teen, saying out loud, oh, I could never run my own business because I couldn't deal with the uncertainty. And then 20 years later, here I am running a business. Yeah, it's very cliche. Once I became a parent, everything kind of shifted. Working the corporate 9 to 5, I didn't have the flexibility that I wanted. And going back to work after 10 months maternity leave, opportunities that maybe had been there beforehand weren't there. And so, yeah, I decided that it was time to look for something else. And ultimately, at that time, so we're going back to 2015, remote working still wasn't really a thing. So if I wanted to have that flexibility, I was always going to have to go out and kind of do something for myself.
Yeah. And is that how long that you've been running Kim Scotland now? It must be strange me saying Kim Scotland because that's your name, but it's also the business as well. I would feel strange about that too.
So it's a really funny story because I see lots of businesses celebrating. It's like, oh, it's my 5th business birthday today. And I can't tell you exactly when it started.
Okay.
All I know is that I started a blog in 2016. The idea was that I'd had 10 months out of the tech industry and tech it moves so quickly. And I felt like I was a little bit de-skilled. And there wasn't that much training opportunity within corporate. So I'm like, right, okay, what am I going to do? I don't want to stay here anymore, but I don't think I've got the skills to go out and get myself a new job. So I thought, I know, I'll start a blog. it was kind of trendy at the time. And I'll do that. I'll hone my skills that way. Uh, but actually I found, oh, do you know what? Blogging's quite cathartic, So I got into like the blogging community. So I started a parenting blog. And then as I was spending time in the community, I saw that there were a lot of people struggling with the tech side of things. And I thought, oh, hang on a minute, I've got the skills to help you. So I then switched from a parenting blog to a WordPress specific blog. So for anyone who doesn't know, WordPress is a website platform. And then from there kind of evolved into a tech virtual assistant, and then somewhere along the line evolved into the web design business I have today. I quit my corporate job in 2019, so it's been my sole focus since then, but it's not been full time as most people would say full time, because I've been running it around young children.
Yeah, I think a lot of people start their business by doing it on the side to start off with. I know that that's what I did. I did it for 2 years from 2015 before I set it up in 2017. Again, it's a not too dissimilar journey for when you're exploring to leave the corporate world in some sort of way. And I was at an event this year where this was really interesting fact for me, because it was something that I went, I am that statistic. And what they explained was that at the age of 35 is when 70% of females in tech leave the corporate world because there's no places for them to go. And I was like, that's when I left corporate. That's when I left tech, is because there was nowhere for me to go at 35. And I didn't get a pay increase that I was looking for, even though I was doing the work of the entire team that was globally. And I was like, I'm out. I'm out. I'm getting loads of requests to do work on the side. And that's what I ended up doing. And that's where it's led to here today. So I can completely align with that statistic to start off with, but also the frustration of being a female in the tech industry at that time and not seeing anywhere to grow. So you mentioned something there around upskilling within the kind of corporate, and you felt that after you went back 10 months after maternity, that there still wasn't many opportunities to upskill. So when it comes to you now in your own business, where do you find the most up-to-date information? How do you upskill yourself now when it comes to getting, all of the up-to-date information? Be good to share
Um,
that.
So when it comes to things like the accessibility, so I'm always looking at, the global organizations, the WCAG, who have who set the guidance on accessibility, and they have various different ratings. So it's a bit like batteries. They have A rating, double A, and triple A is like the top rating.
It's like batteries, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm always kind of keeping an eye on their guidance and what they've got going on. But actually, I'm finding some really good information from a lot of like accessibility and diversity, equity and inclusion specialists, especially ones who have experience in different areas, because you'll find that some people are really hot on gender and race, and then some people are really experienced in neurodivergence, and some are in with physical disabilities. And I think actually the most insightful information I get is from people who actually have the lived experience of the various different accessibility needs, if you like. So yeah, that's I think that's massive, and I think a lot of people underrate that. People think that lived experience, isn't really that valid because it's not evidence backed, which it absolutely is valid, because ultimately that's what we're trying to design, that's what we're trying to build for, is people with those lived experiences.
It's building for them.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So there's quite a lot of places that you go, not only from the making sure it's legal and ethical, but also from the practical side of it, and people that require to share what their needs are in a safe space in that way too. So let's just go down to like, what are the basic fundamentals that a website should have to start off with, when not only are you building a website, but then moving into the accessibility aspects of that, Kim?
So for me, sorry. So it's really basic things like, is your text readable? And, that doesn't just help people who've got a disability, that helps everyone, because I've got pretty good vision, but there are some sites where I'm looking at, do you know what? The worst one is like yellow background with white text. And I'm straining to read that. And I'm like, what is the good of that? If, someone with me who doesn't even have like a visual disability can't read that, then it's doing nothing, because ultimately, if people can't read what's there, then they can't take the action. They can't get a sense of who you are, what you do. So readable text, and some people might feel a little bit called out by this, and I'm not trying to call anyone out or call anyone in, but I think a lot of people put the aesthetics over.
The cursive text. The cursive text is hard to read.
Do you know what?
It's
funny it's funny for you to say that, because that's exactly what I was thinking in my head.
Like, if you've got a logo that's like cursive, I'm like, what is that? Like, I don't know what that is. And again, I'm calling it out. I'm like, is that clear? Is that like readable? I don't think so. Like, is it understanding what you do and how you do it? I don't know. It looks cool. That's great. But yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know.
Exactly.
Can the tools read that as well? Can they read it?
Well,
I don't know.
If it's a font, then yes. However, what I have seen a few people do is, if they can't get that cursive font directly on their website, they'll make a picture in Canva and they'll upload that graphic. And again, if people haven't put, that alternative text description, then no, the tools can't read it. So yeah, that's a really good point. And that's something else as well. I mean, when we talk about the alternative text, which is the text description that you can give to images that screen readers will use to describe images to people who are using the website. So for a lot of people, they look at that and they just see the search engine optimization benefits. Right, let's get our keywords in there. And they forget that actually there's a person, probably sat there using this screen reader, having to sit and listen to these like ridiculous keyword stuffed alt text descriptions. And it's not just on websites, actually. Social media platforms are now making it a lot easier for you to add those descriptions as well. And I would say, to anyone listening, I would think about that, especially if you are someone who puts like, carousel posts on Instagram. That's a lot of text. A lot of people won't be able to read that, and if there's no text description to go with it, then your content is missing the mark for a lot of people. And moving on slightly, what people forget is that actually there is a large population of people who are considered disabled here in the UK. It was estimated around about 16 million people, which is almost a quarter of the population. And that's 16 million people who, can't access what you do, and they can't tell what you do because you've not provided that information in a way that they can digest it. And I kind of like, as a person, I think, oh God, the thought of like excluding people, makes me feel quite sad, a little bit like, oh my God. And even if you're not doing it intentionally, which a lot of people don't. A lot of people they don't build websites and go, do you know what? I don't care about disabled people. I don't want them to, do they?
No,
I mean, if you do, I mean, you've got some issues.
You shouldn't be really running a business, should you?
No.
Probably not.
So, and the thought of doing it unintentionally as well, like, oh God, I didn't mean to do that. And I didn't really mean to make people feel bad. But ultimately, yeah, it's one of those things where you don't know what you don't know.
I think that's the case, is that people don't really know that this is something that they can do, but also now that it's a requirement to make sure that your website is accessible. So I want to go back to some of the things that you've shared there as well, but let's just talk about this requirement aspect, because we know as designers and that are working with web tools that it's a legal requirement to have the privacy policy, the website terms and conditions, the cookies and the cookies browser. This is all part of the GDPR aspect. But this year was when they announced the accessibility requirements that are now mandatory on websites. So would you like to talk a little bit more about what those are and what are the fundamentals that are needed to be set up on a website?
So ultimately, you need to be aware that not everyone interacts with the website in the same way. So not everyone will use a mouse. Some people will use a keyboard, for example, and they will use it by tabbing through various elements on the screen. So straight away, if your website doesn't allow people to interact with it in a way that doesn't use a mouse, straight away there's a barrier there to people being able to use it. I mean, headings is massive, and people don't, again, underestimate the power of a heading.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, headings are good for everyone because they break up text, but also, again, people who use screen readers or people who are tabbing through a website, they will tab through headings. And so if your heading structure isn't right, then again, that provides a barrier for people being able to use your website. Color contrast, I mentioned before, is huge. So, it's quite an extreme example of, white text on a yellow background, but it does happen more than you would think. In fact, there are a lot of brands who've got like a pastel aesthetic, which is nice. If that's what you like, pastels are fine. But again, they're using like really soft grey text on a pastel pink background,
and small font as well.
Yes,
small font.
Yes, so that's an issue as well. And actually, something else that people overlook is links, accessible links. And when I've mentioned this to people before, they're kind of like, "What do you mean accessible links? That sounds really strange." But actually, the number of people, and I get it doesn't just happen on websites, but I get it in email newsletters as well, is click here. And that's where the link lives, click here. So again, imagine if you are someone who is using a screen reader or tabbing through a website, or you just come across a link that says click here. Like, what am I clicking here for? What is it? If there's no context on that link text, then you're not going to get clicks. But also, someone using the website in that way is going to miss out on the potential value of whatever it was you were directing them to, whether it's a download or a link to another really useful, to another page with lots of relevant information. And it's not just the link text, it's things like, when we're talking about disabilities, I think a lot of people think about physical disabilities, but there's also things like neurodivergence. And so, what happens when I click on that link? So if it's just click here, I don't know what's going to happen if I click that link. Is it going to take me somewhere? Am I going to download something? Is it going to open another app? So along with the whole click here, if you want to, go to the real nth degree on accessible linking, you would include a description of what happens when you click that link.
So is it like click here to go to a new tab that opens up? What would you write in that sentence instead that's maybe highlighted and then the link embedded onto it? Is that what you would do?
So I would just not use the words click here. I would maybe say download the guide, and then in brackets, whether it takes you to a new page or downloads a PDF file.
Okay.
So it doesn't, you don't have to have really, really long links, because that's not really accessible as well either. But yeah, just like a short description, download the guide, downloads file. Mm-hmm. It can just be as simple as that, or opens new tab, or opens email app, whatever it is the link is going to do.
Okay.
Just give a little bit more context than click here.
So there's two parts of that as well. So when you embed a link on a button, how do the accessibility tools understand the link on a button in that sense when it comes to a page?
Depending on the website platform, some screen readers will just interpret it as a link because some platforms will it will ultimately be a link, but just made to look like a button.
As a creator, I used to spend hours re-recording voiceovers to get the perfect tone. But finding reliable voice talent, booking studio time and editing takes forever. and it can break the bank. That's why I recommend 11 Labs. It generates ultra-realistic AI voices and even clones your own, all in seconds. With natural-sounding speech, multilingual support, and seamless text-to-speech conversion, 11 Labs powers podcasts, audiobooks, training modules, and more. No mic required. Ready to level up your audio? Try it free today at allmylink.me/TC11labs and bring your scripts to life with 11 Labs.
Screen readers and code, they're clever enough to understand that a button, what a button is, and what it will do.
And it'll do something in that sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when you're thinking about a link within like an article, so like a blog post, then we're using backlinks in either linking back to places on the website or linking to external sites. How we normally just highlight the text and then include the link on the text. Is that the best practice for these tools as well? Or is it doing the same thing as the click here and then the instruction to it?
Well, I think generally they're probably the better examples.
Okay.
Because you're not gonna, I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head, but you're not gonna, let's say, put the link of, look at this website and it take you to, I don't know, to buy a product. Generally when you're putting link on some text, it's contextual generally.
Mhm.
I mean, you can just put in the brackets after it what it's going to do. I don't think there's an issue with that, but actually you do get better SEO benefits from having contextual link text rather than the
Interesting.
click here. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize that. And what right now, as you'll know, with AI reading all of the websites with the AI agents that are built into things like ChatGPT and the research mode, it will go and read through the websites. We've got a Looker Studio dashboard that shows us if these AI tools are finding our website. So we're talking about with people, make sure your SEO, make sure you've got alt text in your images, make sure that you're doing that across all of the platforms. But what I can add on to what I'm explaining to people to do is to make sure that it's accessible language as part of that, because we're now going, okay, yes, let's make it SEO friendly, but are we making it accessible as the core point? And it's interesting that they're using the accessibility features to enhance SEO as well. So instead of giving us another thing to do, they're actually optimizing what we should be doing already, which is making the sites accessible.
Well, this is it. And I think I don't like to say, be accessible because it's great for your business. Because I kind of feel like you should want everything to be accessible.
Yeah.
But actually, anything that is good for accessibility and people is going to be good for your SEO. I've talked about headers, but having the right heading hierarchy,
Mm-hmm.
which is great for people with screen readers tabbing through, is great for SEO because it helps, the little bots that trawl our sites. It gives them a better idea of the structure of the website, and the better idea they have of your website structure, the better they're going to be able to, suggest your site in searches. So I like to talk about accessibility because it's the right thing to do, but sometimes to get people to really sit up and take notice and kind of make the ROI really obvious, I do have to kind of dig into, do you know what? Actually, more people will find you. Actually, more people will be able to use it, therefore bigger client pool.
Let's talk a little bit about that heading structure, because if people don't really know what that is, it's like when you're writing a document and you're writing chapters and you're writing or a report and you've got like your heading, your subheading and all of the different characteristics that make up, and it's usually the formatting of the font in some sort of way when it's a document. On a website, it's not too dissimilar, where you can set your headers to have a certain font style or a certain font size, but actually making sure that each section on your website is split into the heading 2, the heading 3, the heading 4, is that's what you mean by tabbing it through. And that's what the screen readers will read. And that's what the web tools will search for as well, right? Because I don't think when people think about the World Wide Web, they don't realize that it's actually bots that are crawling through the web pages, and actually having your Google set up and your Google console set up and attached to your website means that it will build that hierarchy of your website for you that allows you to do things like, if you're an e-commerce, set up Google Merchant effectively. If you're any type of business, just making sure that you've got Google Console to kind of categorize your website effectively, which feeds into the AI tools, which feeds into the accessibility tools. I'm right in saying these things. Is that right? Is that, yeah?
Yes, definitely. And again, it's not just the accessibility tools that benefit from this. You know, people, we like to skim read. So if we've got really good descriptive titles, we can get to the information that we want quicker and easier. And again, harping on back to the SEO benefits, but you know, it's more places for you to get your keywords in. And you know, if you've got, obviously without keyword stuff in, you know, I'm not saying that every header you have on a page should have your keywords in, because that's awful. Please don't do that. But it, you know, it gives you more opportunity to get it in. And when you have more opportunities to get those keywords in naturally, that's when you start to rank higher, and you're making sure that the people who need this information, the people who are looking for this information, whether it's informational, whether it's a service they're looking for, you've got a bigger chance of getting it in front of the right people.
Yeah, that's so helpful and really, really like useful and important information to share there, Kim. Thank you for going. And I don't think that's really overcomplicated to set up as well, is it? It's not
No,
too difficult to go and set that up.
no. I mean, the only time I see where people struggle with it is maybe if the website platform that they're using isn't the most intuitive for them to use, and they'll sometimes decide that they want to make, for example, maybe like a sentence really stand out, and rather than changing the design of that particular sentence manually, they will just choose, oh, I know, I'll just, you know, it's the same size as my headings that I like. And so sometimes that can move things out of sync, really, out of where they need to be. And that's just a lack of knowledge, really.
And I mean, I've been party to doing that myself because it's easy as well. We also use things like other plugins to be able to help bring design aesthetics into the style of a website page, because it brings in a little bit more interactivity or cool things that might work on the page, like fancy text or like flip tiles in that sort of sense. So when you're bringing in those types of extra plugins that will provide features on the website, how do the accessibility tools handle those?
Honestly, it varies from plugin to plugin, because if we're talking WordPress, not all plugins are created equal. I mean, you could wake up tomorrow and build a plugin, and therefore it all depends on what accessibility considerations the plugin developers have used when they've built the plugin. So there's honestly no telling. I think at last count there were over 1,000 plugins in the WordPress repository. It's a lot, and you know, it would be very, very difficult for someone to, like, you know, go through all of them and test the accessibility issues. And then you've also got the additional issue of, you know, whether the plugin, you know, maybe the accessibility functionality of one plugin would conflict with the accessibility functionality of another, because it would take probably decades to try and test every different combination of WordPress plugin. It's just not feasible. So that's when really you have to be quite discerning. I mean, I'm quite discerning with plugins anyway. If it's not doing an essential job, it's gone for me. But yeah, you've got to be really discerning. Like, okay, so I've installed a plugin. I need to test to make sure, you know, is it something that I can tab through? Can you test it through a screen reader? For example, there is some free screen readers that you can download and just see how it interacts. and all that kind of things. Maybe if you know someone who maybe is neurodivergent, how do they interact with it? Do you know someone with a physical disability? Would they mind? And I'm not suggesting that you ask people to do unpaid labor, but if you've got
No, not at all.
if you've got a really, a kind friend who might help you out, all those things. Or actually there are companies who will do it for you, who've
Okay.
got people who are really experienced in, accessibility testing.
I think that's so important. And I love that the fact that we're putting people at the heart of all of this as well, and as part of this conversation. And because it's not about trying to give yourself more work or to make it more difficult for you, because we know that most business owners, they avoid their technology, they avoid updating their website, they avoid it, or they hand it over to somebody else to do for them. And maybe those people don't have the same amount of care or understanding. Obviously, it's not their business into what output or what connection that means to that business owner that doesn't want to exclude, that doesn't want to kind of stop anyone from being able to get access to their website. So I suppose there's quite a lot of due diligence that's required for business owners when it comes to getting either self-development of their website, choosing the right tool that will match for what the requirements they want to have on the website for their customers. And then also if they're going to a developer, to make sure the developer has those fundamentals in place as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things that they need to take into account as well. You're looking at budgets. Budget is massive for all small business owners. Budget is massive. And sometimes, you have to make concessions in different areas. And it's not because you're a bad person. It's because you just can't afford that right now. And that's absolutely fine. I'm not sitting here judging anyone for not having, checked to see if their website is accessible up to this point. But what I will judge is when you have the information, what do you then do with it? I'm not saying, again, you've listened to this podcast, Kim says that you've got to make your website accessible, which I'm not. So you've then got to make your website accessible tomorrow. But
I think Susan's saying that though, go and make your website accessible. So I wouldn't mind if Kim says it either.
Because we've also got to balance that, because there's an element of shame involved, because if you're someone who, you have no intention of excluding anyone.
Yeah.
But then you find out, oh my God, how many people have visited my website and had to leave because they can't use it. And you're like, oh my God, does that make me a bad person? It absolutely doesn't make you a bad person at all. All it means is that you were someone who didn't know. But now that you do know, what are you going to do about it? And that doesn't mean your website's got to be accessible by the end of the week. But, do you have a plan, to make your website accessible? I'll be honest, my website right now is not 100% accessible. But what I am doing
either, but yeah, I will be going and checking to see.
But what I am doing, because I've got like 60 pages. 60 pages on that site with another like 50, 60 blog posts. That's a massive undertaking. What I do know is that every new page I build is more accessible than the last one I've built, because I'm always learning, obviously. But what I am doing is like, right, okay, so which are the most visited pages? Okay, these are the ones that I need to prioritize. Let's audit them. Where are the weaknesses? Okay, now that I found the weaknesses, I'm going to fix them, and then kind of do it in stages that way. So yeah, I'm not sitting here going, yes, I'm perfect. My website is perfect. It's the most accessible website you've ever seen, because it's not. And that doesn't make me a bad person.
No, it's about taking the steps and the starting steps to optimize in any sort of way. And I like to think there's no such thing as perfect. We're always in progression. And as with tech, we've talked about how fast it evolves. And so it's making sure that we can keep up with the changes and make it adaptable and adapt to those changes. And that's why when I talk about like the essential skills that are required to be in digital, adaptability is a huge part of that. Being agile, being able to flexible to change, and being okay with that, and telling yourself, actually, that's okay. It's just how it changes. Let's see what I can do, and not being too hard on yourself for not being fully optimized in some sort of way, because that's not the case. There's no such thing as perfect. We can only progress in that sort of way. And I think with the evolution of tech, there's no way that we can constantly be on top of it as a kind of solo business or a small business in that way. So take the pressure off, right?
Well, that's it. Because what do you get from pressuring yourself? Stress. Does it
Stress.
fix anything? Does it fix anything?
No.
No, it doesn't. I'm very logical. I'm very practical. And I'm kind of like, right, okay, this is how things are. What steps can I take to change?
Exactly.
I might be like, oh, God, did you really have to do
No.
that? Or, but then
I
move on.
know.
Like, okay, right.
Exactly.
Not ideal. What do we do next?
What do we do next? How can we improve on that for next time? So when you mentioned there that you've got like 60 pages on your website and then a whole bunch of blog posts around that as well, that's not too dissimilar from most websites if they're creating content consistently that's going out to feed their audience more information about their business. So I suppose when you mentioned as well, they're looking at your most visited websites, that data is really important around that as well. So do you recommend that businesses get themselves connected with Google Analytics or other analytical tools and be looking at the web pages and the things that are impacting those web pages? So what are some things that they can look out for when it comes to them looking at their web pages? What tools will help them to be able to do that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we say knowledge is power, and that's exactly it when it comes to your website. So generally, before making any changes to an existing website, I'd want to see, what is happening on the current site, and whether that's using something like Google Analytics or an alternative analytics tool. It doesn't really matter where you get the data from as long as you have it. Because
Yeah.
what you don't want to do, as business owners, we're busy. We've got a lot on.
Yeah.
So what we don't want to do is spend time like improving a page that no one has visited in 3 months, because that's a waste of your time.
Mm.
So what you want to do is again, like I said, prioritize what are the really important pages. And it's not necessarily just your web pages, but it could be your blog posts that are really driving traffic to your site, and then kind of look at, are we linking to any pages from there as a result. So yeah, definitely prioritize what you're doing, and the only way you can do that sensibly, effectively, is if you've got the data to do it, and that means analytics. I'm really sorry, but I forgot the second part of the question.
It's any tools that will help them to do
Yes.
it. So we've talked about Google Analytics, but are there like some other things that they can look at that will help them to work out how to optimize it or to make it better in any sort of way? You've talked about as well, like downloading maybe kind of screen readers to kind of help out as well. What other tools can they use that will
Yeah,
help them to make their websites better?
So yeah, analytics, Google Search Console is another good one as well, because that will help you work out where you're appearing in searches, and more importantly, what are the words, what are the phrases people are typing into Google and your website is appearing for. So that is really, really useful information. I know there are more search engines available than Google, but it does have the lion's share of the market. So it would be silly to ignore it. And then maybe look at, we talked about screen readers. Like I say, you can download free ones. I think I'm using one that's called NVDA at the moment, which is very useful. You've also got I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but there's a Microsoft Chrome browser extension that I'm using actually to help me audit my own website for accessibility. And what's really good about it is it has some automated checks that it does, but it also has like a step-by-step checkbox for you to then, a step-by-step list for you to check off for individual features on a page, something that can't be automated.
That's
for example,
yeah.
I'll find the name of it, but yeah, it's a very, very useful tool.
Yeah, and I think that's where, as soon as we are informed with that information, then we know that we can build with that in mind and going, actually, these are the fundamental things that I need to have in place when I'm building any site or building any page on my site to make sure that it meets those requirements, but also that I'm meeting the needs of the readers of my website as well. So I want to touch on to e-commerce sites, because e-commerce sites have multiple pages because they're constantly uploading products, and each product will generate new pages which will have the sales page, but also maybe a checkout page, and then maybe a thank you page. If we use those 3 standard pages that are added for every product that they put on their site, how do screen readers, or how do you as maybe a small product-based business, let's just go for that one, right? Small product-based business, how do you set up in a way that makes it accessible for people to be able to read it? I don't know. How
Yeah.
does it work differently?
So templates are your friend in this situation, because what you don't want to be doing is reinventing the wheel every time you upload a product. That's going to take you a silly amount of time. So what I would do in that situation is, so my product page, I would have a template set up so it's got the key elements. You've got your product gallery, you've got your description, you've got your add to cart or checkout buttons. And what I would do is I would audit and make sure that that was accessible. Obviously, as people upload images and add new products, let's say, for example, you might have a team, there will be things that they need to do to help with the accessibility. So things like, as you upload new images, you're going to need to make sure that you've got the proper descriptive alt text on there. But as long as you've got, the main parts of the page, so you've made sure that your links are accessible, your buttons are accessible, that you've got the right headings in the right hierarchy, it should just be a case of almost like a jigsaw puzzle. You just fit the right things in the right places and it should take care of itself. And the same goes for like your checkout and your basket pages. So if the website is built right, then it should be just the same pages across the site. So regardless of what product you're adding to your bag or you're checking out with, as long as you've done the work, you've checked that you can tab through it, you've checked that you can fill out the forms without using a mouse, that you can add your card details without using a mouse, all those kinds of things. As long as you've checked those things out, it shouldn't be an issue. It's those, in that situation, that should be, you'll have done most of the work up front. Obviously, periodically, if you've got updates that have been installed and all that kind of thing, you will need to periodically just check to make sure everything's running as it should be, still as accessible as it was before. But it shouldn't be as scary a job as you might think when you think about it.
I love that. So it's building, again, just going back to that, building with those things in mind and having the templates in place to be able to do that. And so I suppose then, is it working with an expert, or is it working with somebody that can help you with that setup to start off with, that can build that almost infrastructure for you to then go, okay, now you can go and do it yourself, and this is the process that you follow every time that you go and do it?
I mean, yeah, in an ideal world, we'd work with experts, wouldn't we, in every part of our business. But again, this is it harps back to, do you know what? Just do the best that you can with the resources that you have. Okay. So if you're sat here and you're going, oh my God, Kim, template, what's that? It's all right. Don't panic.
Okay.
It's okay. You can find out how it works, and it's not a case of, oh my God, I've got 100 products on my site, I'm now going to have to go and update every single one of them. That's going to take me weeks. Generally there are ways to just make one change and it to have an effect across the board. So yeah, don't panic. This isn't me saying you've now got to go and test every single product on your site for accessibility. It's okay.
I found that with the tools that I use, so we use WordPress and we use Elementor, and Elementor released the plugin called Ali that will do a lot of this work for us now. And so it's really, again, I'm glad that we decided to make that decision to move to Elementor a couple of years ago, because it's really building for its builders in mind. So I suppose any web tool that you decide to go with for either kind of a website or for any functionality digitally that you're doing in your business, look at that business and how they're set up. Are they ethical? Are they legal? Are they in alignment with your business values? Are they creating the services that work with what you're looking for your business needs as well, is what I always tend to recommend to people too. Because people go out to the world and they go, do I use Wix, or do I use Weebly, or do I use WordPress, or do I use Kajabi? Do I use, like, I need to, where should I set up my business? And somebody, because they've used it and their pals told them to use it, or somebody else has said, or they're an affiliate, which is what we've seen mostly affiliates. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with affiliates. We do affiliating as well. But is that right for the person? Is that right for the business? That's what you've got to put at front of mind in all of this. And I don't know why I'm ranting. I think it's the coffee, but I think there's something in that as well, Kim, right?
Do you know what? You've just highlighted a pet peeve of mine. Like, you go into Facebook groups and people are like, I need to do this. What do you suggest I do? Or use, and you see all these comments of people going, well, I use this and I use that, but my question is, well, what do you need it for? What
Exactly.
do you need it to do? Because depending on what you need it to do changes the answer. But everyone's just jumping in going, yes, I use this, it's amazing. Yeah, but you run a dog grooming business, they run a web design agency, or a consulting business. Two very different businesses, and you both have different needs, and you may also have different levels of aversion to tech. You might love the tech, but you might not. So, because I get a lot of people come to me and they're like, I want to host a course. I want to run a course. And they expect me to go, right, okay, let's add a course plugin to your website and do it that way. But I'm always like, well, actually, you can do that. And that's probably going to be the cheaper option long term. But if something goes wrong, do you have the skills to troubleshoot and fix it? No. Do you have the budget to hire someone with the skills to troubleshoot and fix it? No. Well, then actually, that 30 quid a month course platform is probably your better option. And again, this is like the bigger picture. And when you talk to a tech professional, we look at all angles.
Exactly that.
The questions, we know the right questions to ask to be able to give you the best answer.
I love that you've said that, because anyone that I'm chatting to that is in the tech space and a tech expert, we see the same thing. It is not just one thing, it's the whole picture. It's the tools, it's the cost and the budget, and it's also the human. Can that human handle those things together? And whatever tool is the sweet spot in the middle of that. So it's not just about use this tool because Joe, John and Fred are using that tool. And they suggested it and it's working for them. It's how does it work for you in your business, in your team and your customers? And then the cost shouldn't matter as part of that. Well, of course it is, but it's about the discovery time and cost as part of that. So actually, I'll give a perfect example of this. We have been trying to combine our tech stack together this year to get it to work using automations and webhooks to try and get them to communicate with each other. And it's taken 4 months for us to try and get it working, and it's not working. It's still not working. And I had a call with a developer this week, and he's like, is the discovery cost? And I'm going, my God, that is the discovery cost, the time that it's taken for me to be like, I need to get these tools working together because we've already got the tools and they're invested and we just need it working. The time, the cost, the impact that's had. And I just needed somebody to tell me that, to kind of go, oh yeah, actually. And this is what I do and this is what I help people with, but I still needed to hear that on my side as well. And so I've now just invested in a new tool. And it just does it. So again, taking a step back, talking to other experts as well, even when you are an expert yourself. And it's really listening to kind of what's the bigger picture here in the business as well. But that's where the tech experts come in, like yourself for that, Kim. So you do things like audits for people. What other things do you do to be able to help support businesses, Kim?
So audits are very popular at the moment, where people are like, well, I've built my website, don't quite have the budget to outsource for a brand new thing. Can we improve what we've already got? So they're really popular. But I also do website builds from scratch, whether it's a new business who just wants a little bit of a social an online presence with something like a single page website that's just introduces you, what you do, and provides contact details, all the way over to something a little bit more meaty where, you know, you go into, you've got your home, your about, your individual services, your contact and all that jazz. I also look after websites as well, which again, I think a lot of people forget. So you think, right, yes, shiny new website, launch, done. No.
Yeah.
Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. It doesn't quite work like that. Especially if you've got a WordPress website, you'll know there's all the updates that need to be installed to make sure everything's secure and that everything still works as it should once the updates have been installed. So I do that as well. Most people find it boring, but do you know what? I get huge satisfaction from it.
It's the tech in you. It's the problem solver that's always looking for where to find that thing that's not working, isn't it?
And do you know what, actually, the thing that I love most is when I do the updates and there is a problem and I fix it before my client even knows that there's been a problem. The other week I did an update and the client's blog page on mobile, only on mobile, it was showing us 3 columns, which as you can imagine is awful.
Like that. Really narrow. Yeah, really narrow.
And I was like, that's not right. Let's fix that. And I did. It was a simple fix. But I'm like, oh, yes, there was a problem and I knew about it and I fixed it. And the client didn't even know.
I love that. Yeah.
It's quite
And that's
sad,
how it should be, right? It
Yeah.
should be that these things, because sometimes these updates happen and the tool providers, which again, we have no control over the tool providers and what they do. We've made the decision to use those tools, whether we're paying for them or not, but we have no control over it. So we have to adapt to be able to work with these tools. And I think that works as well when it comes to businesses that run their business on social media platforms. They get frustrated because the platforms change and they adapt to work for them, and they forget that they're using these tools for free to promote their business. And again, how lucky are we that we've got Google to be able to promote our businesses for free, that we get to use Google Analytics completely for free, Google My Business, Google Console. These are free for us to use. But as business owners, we go, oh no, I hate them. I won't do them. I won't set it up. It's crazy, this mindset around it all, right? Crazy. So that's really, really great, Kim, that you do not only website builds, but the caring aspect of it for the customers as well. So how do people get started to work with you, Kim? Is it through your audit that they go to? Is that what you offer for people to get started with you?
Yeah, generally, if you are someone who's got a website already, because I can't audit something that's not there.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so I offer a free homepage audit just to, and I look at different angles. So it'll be things like, you know, the accessibility stuff. I'll look at the color contrast and your fonts and all that jazz, but I'll also look at it from a strategic conversion point of view. And like I say, they tend to go hand in hand. But I will look at it from that point of view as well and be like, oh, actually, if you tweak this, I think it might perform a bit better. If you do this might look better. It's just like a 5-minute video of me kind of pointing things out on screen, and then they can do with that information what they will. I mean, I like to think that it's useful enough that people go, yeah, actually, might give Kim a go.
Yeah, no, that's great, Kim. And I love the fact that you share a video with them to be able to do it. So if you're looking for an audit on your existing website, you go to kimscotland.com/audit. It will be in the description. It will also be in the show notes on any platform that you're listening or watching this episode. And before we finish up today, Kim, I'd like you to share 3 tips with people to make their site more inclusive, less exclusive, to make sure it's working for everyone. What would you share?
Okay, so I have mentioned color contrast before. Color contrast is massive, and there is a free tool that you can use if you just Google WebAIM color contrast checker. It's a free tool, and basically all you do is you get your color codes, you know, with the hashtag and then the 6 characters afterwards, and you just put 2 colors in. So the color that you want as your background color, the color that your text is going to be on the top, and it will tell you whether or not that's a good color contrast combination. It's like I say, it's really simple, but I reckon the web would be a much more accessible place if more people used it.
Yeah,
so that's my
great.
Yeah, it's I use it all the time, and actually sometimes it surprises you. So recently I built a website and they used quite a dark orange as one of the accent colours. And I thought that the white text on the orange button would be fine. But then I went in and checked and actually it's not. The black actually worked better, which I was surprised about. So you might think that your colour contrast is good, but definitely double check it in that tool. It's really useful.
Great.
The Chrome extension that I couldn't remember the name of is a really good tool to use as well, which I would recommend that you use. This is tip 2, use accessibility insights for the web. It's a Chrome browser extension. I don't think it's available for Firefox, but it will walk you through testing the accessibility of the different pages on your site. It's a really, really useful tool. Like I say, it will automate some tests, but it will walk you through the other ones that it needs a person to verify.
Yeah, I've just looked at these at the same time as you are talking about them, Kim, and these are fab. These are great.
Yeah. And they're free.
And they're free to use. I know, again, it's that free thing, isn't it? Freemium.
Yeah.
Yep. Brilliant.
I'm like, they're really good. And my final tip is, let's banish click here links from the web.
Okay.
Let's banish click here links from the web. Use something more descriptive. Download the guide, book a call, use the title of your blog post if you're linking to a blog post, just anything that gives more context to the place that you're sending people with your link, because you'll not only get the accessibility benefits, but it'll give you some SEO juice as well.
A double winner there double whammy. Yeah, that's fantastic, Kim. And I love that you've made those really accessible for people to be able to add onto their web tools that they're using in any way as well. And I would just say, don't put pressure on yourself as well. Like, take the pressure off, but put the user at the heart of it at all times. That user experience, that user journey, that user interface is what you're building here. That's what that UX UI is, but put the user at the heart of it, right? As business owners, we talk about our customer, our avatar, think about our customers and how we're making our websites accessible for them. So, Kim, it's been an honor to have you on the podcast today. I think we could talk about this a lot more. There's a lot more things that I didn't get to chat to you about. Let's come back at some point and we'll do an update maybe in a year's time to see what's made changes to from there. But thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening to Digital Dominators. I hope today's episode gave you something practical or at least a bit of a boost to keep things going in this mad digital world. If you're enjoying the podcast, hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming up. There's loads more good stuff on the way and some brilliant guests lined up too. And if you fancy going a bit deeper, come and join the Digital Dominators community. It's totally free and it's where I share bonus trainings, podcast extras and tools to help you build confidence with your digital skills. You'll also get access to my social media prompt calendar so you can finally stop staring at that blank screen wondering what to post. Just head to technologycoachingonline.com/digital dominators to get started. Alright, that's it from me just now. Stay curious, keep showing up, and I'll catch you in the next one.